Good morning.
Yeah. Oh gosh, how are you?
Good. Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cafecito with your girl Tink. And today I have a special guest. Her name is Jackie Rodriguez. She's in public relations, and this is going to be a multi-segment episode where you're going to learn all about Jackie and what she does and what the industry of public relations really is. So, everyone, welcome Jackie to our podcast. And I know it's been a while, people, and I have not been on here since like the summer, but I'm back. So here we go. All right. So Jackie, I know that you said you're in public relations, but please enlighten us as to what public relations is because and I'm sure a lot of the people out there don't know what that means. So I would love to know what public relations means or is.
Yeah, so it's a great question. I've been doing public relations for a really long time, and my parents don't even know what I do. So when I tell them I'm in public relations, they're like, "What is that?" So, I mean, public relations is obviously very different from marketing. Public relations, everything that we do is really earned. We're building relationships with media, people that are going to cover, you, your brand, the product, the restaurant, whatever it is that we're pitching. It's all earned media, where marketing, you're paying to get your story told the way you want it to be told. So that's really what public relations is all about, really trying to promote you, your brand, whatever it is that you're trying to get out there to the consumers.
Okay, so then here's my question to you. What I know that you can Google like, oh, marketing near me or a marketing company near me that you can actually tell them what you want done. How does someone come about getting someone in public relations to do what you just explained?
You
Okay,
lost me.
so let's say that I wanted you to actually help my company, Tinkerbell, be exposed. How do I come about getting you to do that or your company to do that or explaining to you what I need done and what's the difference between what you just said marketing does to what public relations would do?
Well, marketing, I mean, you would just obviously you would call, your local newspaper, wherever you want to be placed, and you would just pay them whatever it costs to just place an ad with whatever messaging that you want. From what we do on the public relations side, like we really need to understand kind of like your voice, what you're trying to share with the public, what's the value for the public, so that we understand how to shape your story and make sure we're reaching the right audience. What kind of, if we're pitching reporters, what kind of reporter might be interested in your content? If we're looking at influencers, what kind of influencers might make sense to also reach on your behalf?
But there's still a cost, just like in marketing.
Exactly, there is because it's our time,
Okay.
Our time is very valuable, and it's not just a quick thing.
All right, so let's circle back to how you even got into public relations, because I'm sure the public would love to know, like, well, maybe that's something I'd be interested in, but how do I even know that that's something I want to do? So how did you get into public relations?
So public relations really wasn't on my radar. Honestly, at back then, I didn't even know what public relations was, to be completely transparent and honest. I had gone to school just to go to school. I did communications in school. And then I started working in retail management. I was really big into like fashion, and I loved working with those big brands. And after a while, I really didn't like the hours. I didn't like the nights, the weekends, the holidays, the overnights when you had to change, all the seasonal wardrobe items out. I didn't like it anymore. I wanted to spend more time on the weekends doing what I wanted to do. So I demoted myself from a management position and worked part-time, still work part-time. I still needed my income coming in to pay rent and so forth. And I found a temp agency that, came across an opportunity for me. And I did the interview. They hired me. Again, it was just temporary work. The agency just needed some extra help. And I had really great mentors there that kind of showed me what to do, how to do it. and I had the skills to do it, and I just learned and did it. And ever since then, I've been doing public relations now 22 years. Same agency that hired me as a temp.
Wow. So that agency, are they still around?
Yes, I still work for them today.
Okay. And but the temp agency that you went through, are they still?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I've never looked back. I should probably send them a thank you note.
I was just wondering so we can share that temp agency for whoever would like to get into public relations, if you even knew if they were still around. What was that temp agency, just so we know?
God, Gemini Recruitment, I believe. But
Oh,
quite honestly, there's so many other
right.
recruiting agencies out there now, and some of them focus on like PR and marketing. Um, and I mean, for anyone that's trying to get into PR, I mean, LinkedIn is also a really great resource. There's always posting things on there as well.
Yes, LinkedIn does have a lot. That is true. Okay, so we're gonna go through some questions that I have personally besides this little intro, because I'm interested in knowing more about the public relations side now that we know about you. So, what would you say was your biggest strength to be successful in PR coming into being in PR as a professional?
Uh, well, strategic communications is really important. Relationship building and adaptability. And let me start with strategic communication. So you have to really understand kind of like the climate, the news climate, what's going on around you, what's trending in the news, to be able to really put together a strategy for your client. So depending on, what it is that we're trying to convey, whether it's a product, whether it's a brand, how does it apply to today's world? Because it's changing every day. Even with, tariffs and people are talking about, everything being so expensive. So it's like, how do we cut through the clutter and make whatever it is that we're pitching make sense for, today's economy? Relationship building in PR is really, really important. You want to make sure that, whoever reporters, journalists, people that you're reaching out to on behalf of different brands, that you build a relationship so that, not only are you going to them with different story ideas, but they're also coming to you as a source for their stories. So it kind of goes, hand in hand. Um, and then again, adaptability. We really have to understand what's going on, what's trending, what's important to different, types of people, consumers, whether it's entrepreneurs, so that when we're putting together different strategies, different story ideas, it's gonna apply to the right audiences.
That's great. And I do agree because part of what Cafecito does is we're always on social media news and getting all the information as to whatever is happening out there. And then I convey it not just in English, but in Spanish, because sometimes I say things get lost in translation, and the same thing you'll hear on the news in English is not the same thing you'll hear on the news in Spanish. I like to be the liaison to the truth. So it's like,
Well, you don't want to be deaf tone. Like you don't want to say something and then people are going to be like, "What? Like didn't you just hear what just happened?" Like, you don't want to be that person.
right. Yes, I agree. Okay, so then in your field, what would you say what is your proudest moment or your biggest achievement of your career thus far?
Gosh, there's really been so many, but there's one example. There's one that kind of really even to today still sticks out, and this one actually happened several years ago. But one of the things that we do is we're always trying to figure out how to make something relevant. So here we are, we're working with a QSR, which stands for a quick service restaurant. We're working with a QSR brand, and it's a election year. It's an election year. And we've been pitching like the same menu items. Nothing's changed on their menu. So it's like, okay, what can we use on this menu item and make it newsworthy? Well, there happened to be something on their menu that was that literally had the name conflicted. The name had conflicted in front of it. And so I kind of had this like aha moment where I was like, oh my gosh, it's an election year. People don't know who they want to vote for. Why don't we take this product and make it into something that's still not, you don't ever want to do anything super political because you never want to take sides because obviously then you got a consumer that's like, oh, this person's going for that one. I don't want to, support them anymore. So we really needed to be very strategic and really smart as far as how we pitched out the product. But we did this whole like conflicted angle on how, how people are conflicted on who to vote for. And it turned into a really clever, timely angle that tied into the election buzz without being political, and the media loved it. And we got tons of press around it. Obviously, the company was really happy with all the press and awareness that we were getting for them, so it really worked out.
So do you know what the difference was from now that being on the news and being shared as far as them purchasing it, what the difference was on the scale? Like, was it only being sold at 42% and it went to like 84%? I mean, like,
Well, I mean, you know, it's not even so much about that one specific product. I think the real win here was the brand awareness.
okay.
So if people didn't know about the QSR brand, they knew about it now because now we were trending in the news along with everything else. So now, if they didn't like that specific product, they at least went to look at the menu and been like, oh, okay, well, I didn't know about this brand before. Now I know about it. Now let me go online and check out the menu. Oh, I see they have these other things that I might like. So it was more really about the brand awareness and not so much about the specific product.
That's great. That sounds amazing. All right, and then let's see. I have a question as to content because everyone online, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere. It's like, how do you create the right content that grabs people, that actually makes a trend, that actually starts the conversation? So, how do you go about creating that kind of content? What is the process around that?
So let me start by saying like social media is like one part of PR. It's not everything because PR we're also pitching like newspapers, different media outlets, television, radio, and influencers is one part of it. So when we're looking at like a whole content creation campaign that really hits all those different channels, we really start by understanding the client's goals, like who's their target audience, identify like key story angles that tie into current trends or community relevance. From there, we draft, press materials such as press releases or targeted pitches, pair them with creative visuals, and then from those pieces, if we're really trying to go onto social media channels, we'll repurpose some of those. Obviously, it's not going to be a long press release; it's going to be posted on social media, but it'll be some different key messaging that is short and sweet, and it's going to be attention grabbing for that specific audience.
Do you use all the social media outlets like TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or just specific ones?
It really depends on the target audience because, like if we're trying to reach that younger audience, well, we know that most of them are on TikTok, Instagram. We're probably not going to
Mhm.
push Facebook so much because a lot of older tends to be on Facebook. And then also LinkedIn, like are we trying to target, different businesses? So it just really depends on the audience that we're trying to reach.
That's good. That's great. And so you just mentioned then the PR channels, and which one of them have you seen that is most effective for visibility?
It really again goes back to target audience, but I will say that more and more are going to social media. I mean, if you even think about like, did you turn on the TV today to listen to the news, or did you scroll through your social media feed to capture some highlights?
I'll be honest, I get all my news off of MSN because it flashes across my screen.
Everything is digital. Everything is digital today. So digital is really where it's at. So even if you're getting coverage like in an actual physical newspaper, you also want to see the story online because so many more people are going online for their news. So I'll take myself for example. I'll usually go through my social media feed, and as I'm going through my feed, I'll see a headline that kind of sparks my interest. Then I'll click on it, and then I'll read more about it.
Right.
And I really think that a lot of people are doing it that way too. I know when I speak to like my kids, even like I'll be like, "Oh, did you hear about this?" And half the time they heard about something before I did, because again, it's where they're getting their news.
So I have a strange question that's maybe not related, but I've been looking at a lot of things because you know how you get announcements on your phone all the time, and they're always sending me now these ads about, oh, you should look into TED Talk. You should look into a TED Talk, because it's supposedly one TED Talk could like go viral for so long that you continuously get paid from it. So is there anything that you guys do, maybe not a TED Talk, but that if you do it one time, it just repeats itself over and over and it just continuously brings in leads?
That's a good question. I don't know what the right answer is. I mean, everybody wants to go viral these days. Everybody wants to go viral. So, I mean, it's always definitely a goal to try to make things go viral, but it really sometimes things just don't hit right away. It's all about that, the timing of it too. So,
But
I'd
do
have
your
to look
ads
more into
repeat?
that.
I'm sorry. Do your ads repeat or is it just like a one-time campaign or is it a continuous campaign?
So usually when we're working on a campaign, we're not just working like with one influencer, if that's part of the question. We're working with multiple influencers to get our brand messaging out to all of their followers, whether it's an influencer that's in California that we're trying to reach, California audience, maybe it's influencers in Florida. Um, it just, again, it goes back to really depending on what you're pitching, what your story is, and then just having that moment where something could potentially go viral. I know that when if something does post on social media and it performs really well on its own, sometimes we'll put some, spend behind it so that it reaches more people.
And I think that was my question was, and I'm thinking YouTube related. Why? Because obviously this is a YouTube channel. So you take a YouTube video and then you send it out as a first draft, but then you go back to it and you make shorts or you make a reel or you make something else that'll still bring someone back to that first original video so they can still see it and then drive more traffic. And that was sort of my question was, do you take that one campaign, but then you respin it for the next quarter and respin it for the next quarter so it still continues to be out there in the world, is my question.
I can see how that happens sometimes. I can't think of an example that I worked on recently that we did that. I mean, I know we've done again a couple of different posts that have performed really well. We'll put some spend behind it where maybe we're still promoting the same product, for 3 months. So we'll kind of put some spend behind it. Um, what you're talking about from a YouTube standpoint, where you're referring back to segments like, hey, um, I mean, I see it a lot in articles. If you're reading an article, you'll see a lot of hyperlinks in certain sections of an article, and the hyperlinks are made specifically for you to click on it and go back to that article to read more about it. So yes, I see it all the time. So if you are trying to get people to go back to like one of your old YouTube shows, definitely going back and referring to it makes the most sense.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna tell you what I do to so when I'm constantly on the Cafecito show, I look at all the news outlets before even coming up with, oh, what am I gonna talk about for the rest of this week, and come up with that. So how do you all get up-to-date information to be relevant? From what sources?
Well, for one, I personally, I just like to like read the headlines of like what I go on like people.com. It just, for us, the things that we're pitching, we do a lot of restaurants, we do a lot of B2B, we do a lot of different like consumer brands. So it's really important for us to kind of know what's trending in the news, what's hot, whether it's, you know, the latest on Taylor Swift. I mean, there was a whole time when Taylor Swift was like all you heard about on the news. So it was like, okay, well, how can we use something that we're pitching and spin it to something that might be going on in Taylor Swift's, media landscape, you know? So it's just really looking at the headlines of the news, kind of see what's trending. People.com, you talk about MSN, Good Morning America, the Today Show, like what are they talking about? What are the hashtags that are trending on social media? And then from an industry standpoint, keeping up with like PR Daily and PR Week for like industry insights, just to make sure that we're on top of like what's going on in the PR industry, if there's anything that we need to be aware of. And there's also some really great PR podcasts that really kind of focus on different trends on the media and the Provoke podcasts, just to keep up with different communication shifts, crisis management, best practices, things like that.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. So we talked about all these positive things, but now I want to know, has there ever been a campaign that didn't go as planned?
Of course. Nothing is ever perfect, you know. I mean, these are the things that, we as PR professionals, like we have to plan for. Like, you have to have your plan A and your plan B and sometimes plan C because, sometimes you just have to just expect something to not go right. So yes, there was a time we did a media event and, when you do events where you're expecting people to come out, obviously, it's always like you're on jitters because you never know how many people are actually going to come out, especially if you're not doing RSVPs or anything like that. And so we were doing an event, and, I don't know about you, but I check the weather literally every week. I even want to know what it's going to be like next week, and we're not even at next week yet. I need to plan my outfits. But I'm looking at the weather and I'm like, okay, everything's looking good. There's nothing crazy happening. But like if you live in Florida, 50% is really like could go either way. It could either be beautiful, no cloud in sight, or it could be like, torrential downpour. So we were hosting this event and of course it rained. It rained. Nobody wants to come out to an event when it's raining.
Outdoor event?
It was an outdoor event.
No.
And nobody wants to come out to an event when it's raining. Um, so we didn't have a really great turnout. So we could either look at it as, but one of two ways. We can either say the event was like terrible, horrible, it didn't go well, or we can kind of take what we have to work with and make it work for us. So we did invite some influencers to come out and because we were already planned collaborators with them, rain or shine, they were coming anyways. So we kind of used that opportunity and really just worked on the influencers while they were there to do some giveaways to try to see if we can attract some people to come out even in the rain to like win some different prizes. And then just use the influencers just to create more content for us. So we could have just sat there twiddling our thumbs, but instead we, figured out what else can we
Is
do,
my number one. My days never go as planned, and I have to constantly be shifting. Like, okay, what am I pushing back? What am I moving? What am I actually hurdling right now to make it still work for what we have planned? It happened today. I wasn't expecting to come in at 2 in the morning. I was like, okay, this dinner's gonna go till 10, but it did it, and I was like, oh my God, I have this.
Yeah, I mean, we've worked with celebrities too, where like they got stuck in traffic and they didn't make it to an event on time, and we had a line of people waiting for them, so it's like we got to hold everyone, so I mean, things happen, accidents happen, traffic, I mean, things that are just out of your control. So you just especially if there's a client that's like there with you, like you don't want to be in panic mode. You want to be like that duck where the duck is like moving its little things underwater. You don't see how crazy it's going on above water. It's like calm, streaming ahead.
So basically, the operative word is you have to be creative. You have to know how to
Absolutely.
quickly. Okay.
And you have to be able to think quickly on your feet. Like, okay, this is not working. We got to pivot quickly. What can we do? And remain calm, even though on the inside you may not be.
That's the important part. The remaining calm is the most important part.
Yes.
Okay, so then let's say that went bad. Was there any negativity going on from the customer? And if so, how did you shift from that? How did you change the atmosphere? Or was there no negativity because the customer didn't even know?
the customer didn't even know. They didn't even know what to expect. So yeah. So, because this was an event at a restaurant, just wine and dine them. Make sure they're having a good time. Even if it's just that one customer that showed up, make sure they're having a good time.
Okay. And what happens if these people that show up, let's say an influencer that showed up, actually didn't have a good time and actually had a negative experience and then went on social media and talked about it? How do you guys spin that? How do you guys eliminate that or control that so that it's not out there in everybody's space?
Well, thankfully, we've never had a situation like that. But there's always people that they want to take their things onto social media, which is fine. They're totally they're allowed to do that. But depending on what it is, we want to acknowledge and respond quickly with empathy, with professionalism. Like really, kind of just want to like knock it out right away. Thank them for their feedback, address their concerns, and then the most important thing here is take the conversation offline to resolve it privately. You don't need the whole world to see how you resolved it. You don't need the whole world to see that we, gave them a gift card, invited them back for another complimentary experience. We don't want them to see exactly because then what's going to happen? Everyone's going to do the same thing. They're like, oh, well, I complained and they got a gift card out of it. So I should complain too and get a gift card too. So you really want to take it offline. And obviously you want to make it right, whether they're right or wrong, if it's for customer service. So we try our best to just, make them happy so that when they go back on social media, then hopefully they can post something more positive.
Do you ever ask them if they did do something negative to, okay, look, we're gonna appease you, please remove this? Has that ever happened?
Yes, it has happened where they did remove it.
Okay.
Or, we would just again just take it offline, but we ultimately want them to go back on and just say, that they fixed it and we had a great experience and yes, I'm going to come back again.
That's better than taking it off because that doesn't tell the people that you actually how it got fixed and that it was addressed. And so it's very important that at least people know, okay, anybody can make a mistake, but it's how you turn that mistake into something positive that is the actual reality of being good at what you do. And it's happened to me, so I know. And sometimes I get blamed for things in my tax business that weren't even my fault, like someone forgot to give me a doc and things got filed and then a year later they get a notice, oh, you never filed this, and I'm like, but you never gave it to me. So it's like I absolutely have no idea what paperwork you have unless you give it to me. So I apologize that there was an error, but let's fix it, we'll amend it. And that's just the way, instead of like just put the blame on the customer, leave it like that. No, okay, look, you never gave it to me, that's fine, we can amend it, this is how it's going to go, blah blah blah, and just keep it moving. So it's very,
Yeah, having a solution makes a big difference.
yes, yes, I
Yeah,
agree.
not just being like, oh, well, I'm done. No, but we can still do this, or I can help you at least get this done. I mean, it always comes a long way, not just like leaving it as is.
Exactly. Customer service is so critical when you're in business. That is like the one thing. You can have great food or great whatever, and then, we come out to this little portion that it's like if you don't have good customer service, it's going down the drain. Okay, so we have come to the end of our first segment of this multi-segment, and we're gonna say farewell to our guests for now, but we're gonna come back with more information on public relations and how to make the best of it and how things work. So please stay tuned for our next part two of this situation. And for now, we're gonna say thank you for coming to Cafecito and being and learning and watching. And we will see you in part two. Bye, guys.
Bye.